Welcome, everyone. My name is Nicole Menzies, and I'm an associate broker with KW Commercial, as well as the chairperson for our Commercial Real Estate Committee, who's responsible for bringing this content to you today. I'm also the founder of the CRE Property Partners Group, and my team and I assist businesses and medical practitioners with their real estate strategies. So, thank you for being here today. Today, our format is going to be in the form of a fireside chat. So everybody's mics will be muted except for me and the guest. However, we do ask that you put all of your questions into the chat. And towards the end of the event, we're going to have Jacqueline Pace, who is our chat moderator, read your questions, and we'll try to get as many answered as possible. Jackie is also on our commercial real estate committee as our marketing officer, and she's also a commercial broker who specializes in restaurants. So if you guys want to connect with Jackie after, this would be, you can do that after the event. Okay, so today I am excited. I am so excited to be talking to the amazing T. Dallas Smith to explore our topic today, effects of the pandemic on commercial real estate. T. Dallas Smith is one of the top commercial real estate leaders in our industry. He's a pioneer. He's a trailblazer. It's difficult to find anybody who does not know him or that he does not know. But if you are a newbie on the call, I can say that T. Dallas is the founder and CEO of T. Dallas Smith and Company, the largest African American tenant and buyer brokerage representation firm in the nation. They've done over $15 billion in real estate and counting, and they won several awards. Recently, he won the Albert B. Cates Award for doing the largest office deal in 2020, representing Microsoft on over 500,000 square feet. He also was just in the news recently for being selected by Airbnb, the large vacation rental giant, who has asked him and his firm to represent them on their tech hub. So, welcome, Dallas. Congratulations. I'm so excited to have you here with us today. You're like one of my favorite people to talk to because you are a lot of fun and you're very insightful. You and I actually met at Project REAP in 2019.
That's right.
You were one of the speakers, and I still remember being at the front of the room. Like I almost didn't want to blink because of the things that you were saying. And shout out to Quinn Green and Solomon Colvin, who heads up the Project REAP program. They're definitely responsible indirectly for this event today.
Yeah.
So before we get started, one of the things that people don't know about you is that you are a comedian for 15 years.
Yeah.
Was that your original career choice?
Not at all. So the funny thing was I got saved in 1987, and the church that I went to asked me to come up and give a testimony about, getting saved. And so I went up to give a testimony, and I was just sharing my story, and the entire audience just started laughing. And so afterwards, pastor came up to me and said, "Hey, we have this thing we call the love affair, and I want to know if you would MC it. It's for married couples." I was single at the time, and I never MC'd anything. Wasn't even sure what an MC really was. So I got up and started just doing what I did. I was always sort of the class clown kind of growing up. And before you know it, people were laughing, and I started putting sets together, and I started doing different things, really working the church circuit. So I did stuff for TD Jakes and Creflo Dollar and
Oh, wow.
Eddie Long and all of that. And then I started doing corporate gigs. But I was also at Cushman & Wakefield at the same time. And I was the first Black broker at Cushman & Wakefield, hired in 1989, although I got into the business in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hit that part of because I didn't want to be the only Black guy at Cushman & Wakefield and being the stereotypical funny Black guy. I didn't want to be that guy. So I was everything but funny. I was quite the nerd and quite boring. No one knew that side of me. And so really for a number of years, I just kept it kind of bottled up. But now, at 58, soon to be 59, I really don't give a damn now. I just, you're going to love me and like me, love me and hate me. I am who I am now. And, but yeah, it was a great part. It's still kind of who I am. And it's kind of really, I've combined two worlds now. I still do real estate, but people, you do a lot of work. We work more than we do anything else. And so you can have some clients laughing and enjoying themselves. It helps you to build relationships a little bit better. So it's the cat's out the bag now. People know. And then if you work in my office, for sure.
So, okay, so that was like a hobby that you were kind of just like doing on the side.
Well, I think of it this way. God does one or two things. You're either going to walk into your calling or you're going to get pushed into your calling.
Amen.
And I feel like I just got pushed into my calling in that regard. So I still love making people laugh. I laugh a lot. My business partners, but Dexter Warrior would tell you, Dexter's been in the business as long as I have. He tells this story all the time. He said the first 20 years of his business, and he was on the ownership side for years, representing billions of dollars of transactions for companies, the state of Florida, teachers retirement pension fund, that kind of stuff. And he'll tell you, he said, I laughed more in 2 years with Dallas than I have 20 years in my other career. So we have fun. We work hard. We play hard.
Yeah, I definitely saw that. I've had lunch with you, and it's a rollicking good time. Okay, so you mentioned coming into the industry in the 80s. I mean, I just can't even imagine what was that like. And what made you decide on, commercial real estate? Did you have an influence? Did you see someone?
None of that. So I was a little slow, right? So I'm from Atlanta, born and bred. I say I'm Atlanta born, Atlanta bred. When I die, be Atlanta dead. I'm from Atlanta, and I grew up in the inner city in a neighborhood called Hunter Hill. And in my old neighborhood, basketball, track, playing. I mean, it wasn't, my parents are blue collar parents. Loved them dearly. I mean, they instilled a foundation in me about treating people how I want to be treated, and treating others how you want to be treated. But when we moved to College Park in 1976, it was an all white neighborhood. We were the first Black family, and in fact, when we moved in, the neighbors across the street came out and put a for sale sign in when we moved in. And I was 14, had never experienced any racial thing, so I didn't even know what it was. I actually said to my dad, I said, "Oh, that's ironic. We're moving in, they're moving out." And my dad said, "Well, get in the house." And again, I was naive, didn't know what was going on.
Right.
But while I was out there, I met two young guys, two Black guys, one 14, one 13. And long story short, these guys had their entire lives mapped out. They both were going to be doctors. They had what we would call vision boards now in their bedrooms, and more house pennants on both. And one was going to Michigan, the other was doing this, that. Long story short, when I left their house, I felt like the biggest loser on the planet, because here I am, 14. I didn't have a laid out plan like they did. I just like, oh, wow. So that peer pressure really was a good thing for me.
Right.
And so the only thing I could come up with was I wanted to make a lot of money. And so as the years went by, because that was at 14, really wasn't until 18 years old till I really figured out what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And again, the whole thing was to make a lot of money. So I took a Forbes magazine, studied what the richest 400 people in the United States did at the time. And pretty much it's still the same story now. The richest 400 people tend to do one of four categories. Real estate is one of them, investments, technology, and the oil industry. As I mentioned, I'm from Atlanta. I want to stay in Atlanta. So oil industry, you had to go to Texas. Investments, really New York. Technology was my personality. It left me with real estate. I didn't want to drive around with kids in my car on the weekends, so that knocked out residential. Right. So I literally just backed into commercial real estate. And then I called my dear friend, Michael Hightower, who was dating my sister at the time, because he was the youngest
I know
city
him.
council member in the world. I mean, in the United States at the time. And what's funny is I've told this story a lot of times, and people go, well, Mike was dating my sister too," but that's a whole nother story. But
Oh,
Mike
wow.
introduced me to somebody who introduced me to somebody, and that's how I ended up in the real estate business. A guy named Thomas W. Tiff brought me in the real estate business in 1982, and forever grateful for him. To him, he's 94 years old now. He's suffering from Alzheimer's, so he doesn't know me anymore. So that's really tough to see.
Oh,
He's a
no.
older white man who had never had anybody who looked like me work for him before. But I always tell people he was the Branch Rickey. Branch Rickey hired Jackie Robinson for the Brooklyn Dodgers back in the day and integrated baseball. Mr. Tiff was that guy for me. Forever grateful to him. He calls me his son. Just a
So,
good guy. So I'm grateful.
so this is the Tommy Tiff, the family that has a city, county, and a university named after them.
The one and the same.
Wow. I mean, that is
Yeah.
awesome. The way, God will move his hand.
Oh,
And
no doubt. It's about, I think, half the battle is showing up, right? A lot of us don't put ourselves in situations where we'll be uncomfortable. I was the only Black person working there. I was 19 years old. But I'm always trying to connect with people here and not here.
Mhm.
Get to know people, and you may actually see somebody's life change. Your life may change. I'll tell a story about Mr. Tiff. His father was the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan in Tipton, Georgia, and so.
Yeah, I saw that they owned cotton mills, and so that made the story even more.
So how does a man who's the son of a Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan hire a guy like me?
Right.
And it's really about being intentional and connecting to people. And so that's the long story short, but I'm forever grateful for Mr. Tiff. He will forever be in my story. There's pictures in my office of him here. I love the man dearly, and just grateful for what he did for me.
Another powerful person that was factored in your life was H.J. Russell. I read his book the other day. I mean,
Yeah.
Amazing. I saw he mentioned you in the book too.
Yeah, that was a highlight for me to be mentioned in Herman's book. The fact that Herman started his company as many years ago as he did, the fact that he knows as many people around the world, to think about this little guy from Hunter Hills, city of Atlanta, was extremely grateful. And I'll tell a story about Herman. Herman was a cold call. So my very first cold call when I was at Cushman & Wakefield. So I left Mr. Tiff and I started at Cushman. And I was the first Black broker there, as I mentioned. And my very first call was to Herman Russell. And Herman, arguably, one of the most important people I've ever met, particularly if you're from Atlanta. He was a name that you heard your entire life growing up.
Yep.
And so I'd already prepared myself, Nicole, that I was going to have to call this guy for 2-3 years before I got to him. That's what I was prepared to do. And I cold called, got a secretary, did my whole spiel with her, told her where I was trying to call. She said, "Okay, well, I'll tell him that you called." And, I was so kind of stretched after making the call, even just talked to the assistant. I went and took a break. So I went to the break room, and 15 minutes later, the receptionist called. She said, "Dallas, we have a call." I said, "Just send it to the break room." I thought it was my wife at the time telling me to bring some bread home, something, But it was Herman Russell, and totally floored me. I said, "Mr. Russell," I said, "let me just apologize, because I had a whole script of what I was going to say to you." I said, "But I'm in the break room and my script is at the desk." So I said, at the end of the day, you're somebody I know I need to meet. And if I'm going to be successful in real estate in this town, I don't know what we can do together. I don't know if we'll ever do it together, but I just know I need to know you. And he just laughed and said, "Oh, you call Noel Khalil and you tell him I told you to call him." So, Noel was running development for them then. He runs, I can't even think of the name of the company now, but he big real estate developer now. And so we went from that to when Herman died in 2014, I was one of the pallbearers.
Oh, wow.
So we went from a cold call to really being a pallbearer. And I tell people at the end of the day, how that happens is being intentional. And the reason I do, I take calls from everybody. So my schedule's getting a little crazy these days, but I still do my mentorship calls every other Friday. And I kind of stack them starting from around 9 o'clock in the morning to, usually around 2, 3 o'clock. And the reason I do that is because of Herman Russell.
Wow.
Herman, here he is worth, damn near $500 million.
Right.
Take time to call a guy he doesn't know. That taught me a very valuable lesson that don't ever think you're too big or too mighty or too anything to stop and take time to speak to somebody. And so really, I'm also trying to create an environment that I can't say I am from the South. I didn't say that. That I wish had existed when I was coming up, that there was somebody I could reach out and call and talk to. So that's why I do that. And, that's how I know Carl Simeon. Carl was one of those calls that called me on one of those Fridays, and we had just a delightful chat. And he's also a golfer, so that helps. Because if you can't catch me in the office, you can come find me on a golf course. But I do that really because of Herman, and I wish more people would do that. Again, Herman said, you don't know why people are calling you, and you won't know until you return the call back. They can have a job for you, some money for you, or whatever. Answer the call. So that's that.
So, that bears an interesting question. The way you came into the business, still there's not a lot of diversity in commercial real estate. Why do you think that, African Americans are not typically choosing commercial real estate as a career, or what are the factors that you think that contribute to this lack?
People who've heard me speak will hear me say the same thing. So I've said this a few times. It comes down to simply two things.
Mm-hmm.
It's two reasons, period. And I'll tell you how I came to this conclusion. When I was trying to get hired with Cushman & Wakefield, I went through a 4-month interview process. I literally got interviewed by everybody. Brokers, secretaries, everybody interviewed me. Now, mind you, I've been in the business 6 years. I've done extremely well.
Okay.
And all I've ever done was commercial. I, never sold a house in my life. All I've ever done was commercial.
Okay.
And one day, I'm waiting for this job to come through. It wasn't coming through. I was in my prayer time one morning. And it's like God said, get up and go to work. I got dressed, put on my suit and tie, went to work. I go to Cushman, and I've been there so many times, Nicole. The receptionist, her name was Myra. She said, Dallas, well, who are you here to see today? I mean, that's how many times I've been there. I said, well, I'm here to see Mike Elton. And she said, do you have an appointment? I said, no. She said, well, hold on, let me check. She called. She said, well, he's in a meeting. Do you have a minute to wait? I said, sure. So she's asking about the family. She knew, again, we talked so many times, she knew this. She whispers to me, she says, have you met Bill Bugg yet? I said, no, I hadn't met him. She said, well, he's coming down the hallway. I want to make sure that you meet him. Mm-hmm. And Bill Bugg ran Cushman & Wakefield at the time. He was the Southeast region president. Okay. And so I meet Bill. Myra says, Dallas, Bill, there's somebody here that needs to meet you. And he said, who's that? Dallas. He looks down. Dallas, have they made a decision about you yet? I said, no, sir. I said, that's why I'm here trying to find out. Mm-hmm. He said, well, do you have a minute to talk? I said, sure. So she gives me a wink, and I, follow Bill to his office. About 30 minutes is just small talk. We're talking about mutual friends that we know. And then about 30 minutes into it, he hits the table. He says, Dallas, people ask me all the time, why don't we have any Black brokers at Cushman & Wakefield? I tend to tell him one of two things. And this is 1989, by the way, in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. He said, I tend to tell them one of two things. One is we can't find any qualified. The second is we don't want any.
Oh.
He put his hand on my shoulder and said, we really don't want it. He said, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be the first. But understand, depending on how you do, will determine whether there's a second, third, or fourth.
Oh,
I
wow.
was I was 26 years old when he was telling me this. So I'm telling you that for this reason, because you asked the question, why is this the issue? So here are the two issues.
Okay.
One, back to his statements, we can't find it. Okay.
Okay.
Second is we don't want it. Those are the two issues. So you can't find any. What you're doing here with this program is the reason I do these types of programs is simply for one word: exposure. It's hard to aspire to anything you've never been exposed to. So the more I do this, the more people who look like us see this, and even people who don't look like us see me and go and tell other people, hey, I met this guy named Dallas. You're looking for somebody Black who's been doing this for a long time. You should call Dallas. So exposure is key. We've got to continue to talk about it. The more we talk about it, people, cream rises to the top. Those who have an interest, reach out, call, we talk. I mean, same way you did with me, same thing with Carl. I've talked to Tiki, I've talked, a lot of different people who reach out to me on different periods of time. And this is what I know I'm supposed to do. This is what I know I've been called to do. So exposure is key. The second is just pure racism. So how do we deal with racism? Well, if a Grand Dragon son can bring me into the real estate business and go from that mindset to calling me son,
Right.
then I know there's a higher power upstairs who can do that work. But
Right.
we got to have ourselves open to have these tough conversations. Don't shy from it. And I think one of the reasons why Atlanta is so good at what we do, particularly with all these tech companies coming here for diverse talent, is because Atlanta has been having these tough conversations around race a very long time.
Oh.
We were the only city when Dr. King was murdered that did not riot. And this is his birthplace. Now, why did that happen? That happened because of Atlanta Action Forum. White executives, Black executives would get together once a week and talk about tough issues.
Mm-hmm.
And because they had that relationship, they were able to quell anything happening in the city of Atlanta. That same thing is happening now. And the reason why you're seeing Google, Facebook, Microsoft, all these tech companies coming from West Coast is because they don't have the diversity in the West Coast. So they're getting smart and they're saying, okay, what? If we can't get Muhammad to come to the mountain will go to Muhammad. So that's what's happening. So you're seeing a lot of tech companies coming this way as a result of finding diverse talent. Not to mention we've got Georgia Tech, Georgia State, AU Center, with, we've got a talent pool here that you won't find in a lot of other places. So
and I think, a lot of companies are also, I'm reading that discovering that diversity actually adds to their profit margins. So
it's a fact. A diverse team profits are much more than a monolithic team.
wow.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
It's a diverse. I mean, just think about just the folks you have on this call today.
Mm-hmm.
Your background. I don't know anything about your background. Okay, you don't know anything about my background. But we come together and start talking about solving a problem. You're going to bring all those resources that are in your head to help solve that problem, to see it through your lens, the same way I would through my lens. Mm-hmm. Having those different looks at any problem is the best way to solve it. So you can come to my office at any given time and you'll hear our conference room. You'll think we're trying to kill each other. Roland, you know your boy Dexter Warriors. Dexter and I mean, we got all alpha. There's some strong alpha folks around here, female and male.
Yes. Yes.
And so we're a firm believer that iron sharpens iron. Mm-hmm. So we're never going to be fussing. It's never personal. But if you think we should go left, I think we should go right. I'm going to talk about why I think we should go right. You're going to talk about why we should go left, and at the end, we're going to come up with a solution that's going to be better than both of us.
Right.
Because we're really to have that tough conversation. Iron sharpens iron. We're getting sharper every day. Mm-hmm. My whole thing is we're going to stay green enough to grow. I've been doing this business 39 years, but I'm going to know more tomorrow than I know today. Why? Because I'm intentional about it. And the clients that we're working with, the stuff that we're doing, the lessons I learned from Microsoft, I'm able to take to an AT&T. The stuff I learned from AT&T, I'm able to take to Chase Bank or FedEx or Airbnb. It's about constant growth. Stay green enough to grow. The minute you stop growing is the minute, somebody needs to put you in a box. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You stop watering the plant will die. So for me, that water is intellect, is intel, it's learning more and staying green enough to grow. As Dexter says all the time, we have not arrived. Mm-hmm. my whole thing at the end of the day is when they put me in the box, Nicole, I know my goal is to bring more people into the business who look like me. That's what I know I'm supposed to do. And I'm supposed to leave this world empty. What I mean by leaving this world empty is I shouldn't go in the grave with any books in my head, any stories in my head that hadn't been told. My goal is to make sure that I impart that information I have in my head that I've gained for 39 plus years to benefit another group. And as a result of that, we have younger folks here in their 30s making 7 figures. Why? Because they've got somebody else to stand on. And we have to have that foundation that we can build. It's not about me holding my intel, my intellect this way. No, I've got to give it. Because I realize one thing about life, if you give it, you receive it. So all these things that we're seeing coming my way, Microsoft, Airbnb, and we got some other stuff coming that's going to shock the world. I'm here to tell you, it's only because I've been given and God has given back. And so I'm grateful to have this platform to talk to the folks here today. But I'm an open book. Carl will tell you that. And I can be very tough to my folks. Carl is, again, I'm 58, soon to be 59. The reality is this. I need to give it to you raw and uncut.
Exactly.
It doesn't need to be filtered.
Yeah.
It has to be raw and uncut. And what you do with it, that's on you. I sleep well at night. I know I gave Nicole good advice. Gave Carl good advice. Now what they do with it is on them. But it won't be because I didn't do what God taught me to do.
I mean, I've definitely been the recipient of your directions. So, and I love it too, by the way. I like my information like direct, straight, I don't like it filtered down. And I remember one of our early conversations, you were like, you need to take your photo off of your business card. Commercial agents don't have their photos on their business card. But it's not there anymore. But
I remember you called me, you actually sent me a card without the picture, like, here, I listen. And the reason I've told that story before, I said, people don't say, well, how is that a negative? I said, let me explain to you how that's a negative.
Yeah, that's a residential thing.
That's a very residential thing. So if I was on the commercial side and you come to me with your photo, I won't say anything to you, but in my head, I've got a rook here.
Lydia's shaking her head.
I'm going to take full advantage of this rook, but I'm going to make them think they know what they're doing, but they're really about to get, I'm not that guy anymore, but in my 20s, I was that guy. So what I try to do is bring, again, if it's information I feel like can help us, I'm going to give it to you. Now, again, what you do with it is on you. But, like you're somebody who followed the advice. And the funny thing, I'll go to events and I'll go, how many people do commercial? They raise their hand. How many people do residential? The same people raise their hand. And then I tell them, I said, if you're raising both your hands, you're not doing either one of them any good. You're not doing, think of it this way. If you got a heart problem, you go to a doctor. You want that doctor who does nothing but heart problems.
Yeah, not resi-mercial. Like
you don't want the doctor who works on feet one day, eyes the next day, elbows the next day. No, you'd be like, no, I'm good. You're gonna find that specialist. So I don't care what you're doing, but you need to specialize. And the more you specialize, the better you're gonna get. The better you get, people are gonna seek you out. Large companies are gonna seek you out.
We got a lot of tenant brokers, like big tenant brokers on the call. What made you decide to specialize in tenant rep as opposed to, like, say, investment sales? And what made you start your own business?
Well, okay, that's two different questions. But the first part is
first one.
Tenant rep. That's where the money is, hands down. It's not even close.
People don't know that. They think it's listing.
It's not even close. Let me give you for instance. So we sold a $180 million property for AT&T in a sale leaseback. Our fee on that deal was less than a point, right?
Okay.
So we made, just shy of, call it $800,000.
Okay.
If that was a lease with the same aggregate value, same aggregate value
Mm-hmm.
of $180 million lease value.
Mm-hmm.
That fee, you especially in Atlanta, you're gonna get first a pro fee of first month's rent, average thereof,
Mm-hmm.
and 4% of the aggregate value.
And
So
then
you're almost five. It's almost 5 times more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Same aggregate values, and so it's not even a close second.
Yeah.
So the reality of it is, if I'm going to spend this much money, then if you're going to sell a property, you got to put your package together. You got to put out. You got all this extra stuff you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tenant rep side is you're going to sign my letter of authorization, or I'm going to sign your agreement. If some of these companies have their own engagement, then we're going to go find your space. The landlord's broker going to do all the work. They're going to help put the leases together. They're going to put the package together. They're going to do all that. They're spending their money, their dime. Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, they only make half of what the tenant rep broker makes. Mm-hmm. So if a broker in Atlanta is making first and 4, that landlord's broker is making half and 2. So if I'm going to spend my time on doing anything, I'm going after the elephants. I'm not hunting squirrel.
It's least too. And there are a lot less expenses, like you were saying. Like, I mean, you do a deal, I mean, your expenses to do the deal are like very minimal,
I mean, if you take a listing, I got to put a sign up. And I got to put a real sign up. And a real sign is going to probably cost me $300, $400.
Yeah.
A commercial sign,
Yep.
So, I mean, you got 10 listings like that. You hadn't made any money. You've already spent $3,000, $4,000 on signs. Mm-hmm. So it's just, again, I'm a simple guy. Herman Russell used to always say, 1 + 1 = 2. If somebody come to you and say 1 + 1 = 100, you get the hell out of it. So follow the money. That's simply what I did. And that's what we've been doing. And I also knew that would differentiate us from everybody else that was out there. Because everybody else that was out there was doing, we're full service broker, we do landlord work, we do all blah, 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 blah. No, I do one thing well.
Right.
Herman Russell, when he started his company, he only did one thing. He was a plasterer. That's all he did.
And it led to so much other stuff.
Well, what happens is that becomes your foundation. Mm-hmm. And if you build a firm foundation, then you can build a mega structure on top. But most of us are trying to build a mega structure from the top down. And I've yet to see that happen. I've yet to see somebody build the 50th floor first and build down to the first floor. It won't happen, right? And so if it won't happen physically, why do people, one of these things that drives me crazy is you need multiple streams of income. Okay, I tell you what, get one solid stream first.
Okay.
Do that first, all right? Don't come to me with 7 ideas. Do one solid thing first. Let that be your foundation. Build on that foundation. Mm-hmm. Herman went from plastering to owning 100+ companies.
Right.
But he made his bones on doing plastering.
Okay.
So I'm a real simple person. If he did it that way, I know I can do it that way. So my plastering was just tenant rep. Office, exact. I mean, now we do office, industrial, land, but initially it was literally just office.
I've seen in the chat, people are like, I like that. One solid thing first from Jackie. So COVID-19, oh my goodness. So COVID-19 has fundamentally changed the way we're doing business right now. The demand for space has been significantly impacted by the quarantine, social distancing, employee layoffs, remote working.
Yeah.
How have you, from your vantage point, how have you seen companies changing their real estate strategies in response to COVID? Do you think it's permanent?
It's not permanent.
Okay.
One thing to remember is one thing about human beings, mm-hmm. and in my 39 years of doing this, we have very short memories. We just have very short memories. So I'll take you through my first, got in the business in 82. My first recession was in 87, due to the S&L issue. Mm-hmm. During this time, no corporation was going to be able to get a building financed. Okay, that's what was said. Moved to the 90s, the dot-com bust happened. No tech company was going to be able to lease space because their credit was ruined because of what they messed up. Then you're talking about 9/11. Nobody else was going to go into a skyscraper anymore.
Right.
On and on and on. So
I remember that.
So what happens is, and obviously, I'm talking to you now from the 23rd floor of 101 Marietta Street. Okay.
Right.
And I've been in this building now almost 14 years. And I'm looking at other skyscrapers behind me. And the moral to the story is this, Nicole. Fear moves people in different ways. Those who find the pandemic as an excuse to not do well is because of fear. Ultimately, it's fear. And fear, one of the acronyms of fear is false evidence appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
We had the biggest year of my 39-year career was last year during the pandemic.
Microsoft.
Yeah. So what happened? Nothing really happened other than I just continue to do the work that I've always done. Be intentional about building relationships. Build relationships before you need them. It's about, you got to find commonality. So I even think with Mr. Tip back in the day, we found commonality around two issues. Initially, when I went into his office, he had a picture of Ronald Reagan on his desk. And I said, "Oh, you're a Reagan fan?" He said, "Yes, I am." I said, "So am I." We talked about Reagan for an hour. He had his tennis racket in his office. I had the exact same racket. We talked about tennis for an hour. So we talked for 2 hours around what was supposed to be the shortest interview in the history of mankind. That was told to me later. But we found connectivity. And so my point is, I've been doing that since 1982. I still do that. And the reality of it is, if you got to work, and we all working, and if you got to work 10, 12 hours, and you got a choice of working with somebody you enjoy being around, or working with somebody you cannot stand, which are you going to do?
Right.
I mean, it's not rocket science.
Right.
Now, the assumption is you can do the work. So when I make that statement, the assumption is you can do the work. You take that out of the equation. Everybody can do the work the same way. You got the best technology, the best of all this. But what is going to separate you is your relationship with that person. They enjoy being around you. You enjoy being around them. If you can work and enjoy folks that you've been around, you're going to win all day long. So I'd say focus and be intentional, not so much on the money. That was the young Dallas, but be intentional on the relationships. Relationships will lead you to a place you just never know. I had one buddy who, because of a relationship, he needed a kidney transplant. One of his clients, who they've become very good friends with, gave him a kidney.
Wow.
Now, you don't go to try to do business to get a kidney, but if you build a relationship, a true relationship, you just never know what may come out of it. And God has a way of doing those things.
So is that how the Microsoft deal came about, or how did it come about? I mean, that is a big deal. That is every broker's dream. So we were all cheering when we heard that it happened.
And it was literally the same thing. It's about being relationship driven. So all of my folks who work here know that I push one thing more than anything else, is about having relationships. We go to Cornet every year. Cornet is a corporate real estate trade organization. That's not cheap to go.
Right.
We spend typically $20,000, $30,000 every time we go to this event, to put people up in the hotel, to pay for the fees, all this kind of stuff. Out of 3,000 people that go to this event, how many people do you think are Black?
Oh, I've been there. 2.
All right, so right. So it's typically about 12. Okay, and that's 6 on the staff who work for Cornet, and the other 6 are T. Dallas Smith and Company brokers. So 12 out of 3,000 people. Now, all we have to do is show up. I don't have to put on my card that I'm Black, that I'm a Black broker. You see that, right? So as I'm walking through, and if the head of real estate looks just like me from a global organization, we, 9 out of 10 times we're gonna say, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, man, how you doing?"
Right.
And you're gonna have that connectivity, and you got commonality. So there's things that, he's a member of a fraternity. So, all these kinds of things, and you know how to, you start talking around, man, I got a friend who does this, who's this who's a Q over here. I got a friend who's a Sigma over here. I got a friend who's a Kappa over here. I mean, you start making those connections and you build a relationship, not because you're trying to do a deal, but because you're trying to build a new relationship. I never chase deals. That's not what I do. I chase relationship.
So during the pandemic, have you seen lease terms change a lot? And if so, how?
They will. They're not yet, because a lot of the underwriting for buildings are the same. These banks are not easing up on your mortgage. You still got to pay that mortgage, and these rents still got to be paid. So landlords are, the strong ones are just waiting for the market to come back around, which they know. And now the vaccine is out. People are starting to return back. Our parking lot at this building is starting to get filled a little different than it was before. So you can see people returning back, and that's what will happen. It's a blink, but what it uncovered, weak landlords will be out of business. Strong landlords are going to just get stronger.
Yeah,
that's what this deal is. When you think about Warren Buffett, one of my favorite sayings that Warren said: "Be afraid when people are greedy. Get greedy when people are afraid."
Oh.
So people are afraid right now. This is a perfect time to be greedy. This is a time to go buy real estate. This is a time to acquire things, because people are afraid. Now, when everybody's greedy, that's the time to get afraid. So every growth spurt that has happened for T. Dallas Smith and Company has happened during a downturn. We started this company in 2007. I mean, we were in the midst of the big recession. We expanded our office during one of those times. We're in the middle of a pandemic now. We're expanding our office by another 2,000 square feet and putting in a golf simulator, by the way, Carl, so I can really take Carl to task next time I play him. But also as an incentive to get people to the office. And also, I really encourage my people to play golf. I really believe golf should be taught in high school. It's more than it should be taught in business school. It's one of those things of connectivity to get people together. Again, how do you be intentional? Golfing, and I hunt. So that's new. Governor Kemp's a good friend of mine. I think the world of him. He's a big hunter. He's a quail hunter. I said, I'm going hunting with you. So I shoot. I said, if you go golf with me. So that's our deal. And the point is, you can build great relationships on the golf course. You can build even better relationships hunting. Because it's an all-day thing. You go there the day before. And again, it's about being intentional about your relationships and how can you spend time with people at the end of the day. Like Carl figured out real quick, you can't ever get me in the office. You can get me on a golf course. So you got to meet people where they are. And the more you do that, you build stronger relationships. It's like, as a married man or a married woman, somebody comes and try to take you at a dinner party. Well, you didn't have a good, strong marriage. But if you got a strong marriage, odds are that happening won't happen. Right? It's the same thing with your clients. You got strong relationship with your clients. It'd be real tough for somebody to come and take your client. And if you do take them, my hat's off to you. You one up me that day. You were better than me that day. But it won't happen a second time.
So with the pandemic, do you think that brokers need to change the services that they're offering or the way that they do business right now? Have you changed anything about how you transact business?
I'm doing more of this on these Zoom calls. That's about it.
Everybody.
This is one of the new things. This will stick, when you can't go to that, you can't fly West Coast or whatever.
Yeah.
This will stick. But in terms of really business changing, no.
Yeah. Okay.
People, again, this is a blip in time. The last pandemic was over 100 years ago, right?
Right.
So this is a blip in time. And I'd be curious, had any of us even knew about the Spanish flu? I was never taught that in school and didn't know anything about it until this pandemic came up. My point in making that statement is our memories are extremely short. Yeah. It's one of the deadliest times in the US, and we grew up not knowing anything about it.
One of the things I'm wondering is I remember back in the days, office space like cubicles and everything was small. And then we started to get bigger, 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 bigger. Do you think it's going to contract again to where, you're going to have like these little pods because of the fear of, contracting viruses from other people? Do you think office space is going to kind of get smaller as far as your working space?
So when I got into the business in 1982, the average per square foot per employee was 260 square feet.
Wow. Okay.
That was the average. Everybody had their own private offices. That was it. Then, things got strict. We're gonna, these conference issues and, collaborative spaces and all this, things got smaller.
Mm-hmm.
What COVID did was say, hey, okay, let's give everybody that 6 feet back. At a minimum, let's get that back. So we're going to get back. We're actually going to get larger. That you're going to see that happen relative to what has happened. And that, again, that's going to be a blip. That's going to last for, we give that 5, 10 years, and then people are going to start shrinking again because memories are short. People will forget about COVID. Everybody's had the vaccine by now. And we're going to go right back to where we were. So it's an accordion, and that's what we've got to understand. We're in an industry that does this on a regular basis. I mean, we're playing an accordion on a regular basis. And it's like, where are you? If you do the fundamentals, building the relationships, doing these accordion times, the ups and the downs, you're going to weather the storm better than most.
Yeah, it's down to the fundamentals, I suppose you're saying.
Absolutely.
Nothing new.
I mean, so that's why you got to be good. Back to the heart surgeon. You got to be the best heart surgeon.
Yeah.
Right. You got to be the best at what you do, and people are going to seek you out. I mean, if you got the means and the best heart doctor in the world is in Switzerland, you're flying to Switzerland.
That's true.
I mean, everybody wants the best. I mean, one of my favorite scriptures is the king desires the best. Mm-hmm. So if you cut grass, make sure you're the best person to cut grass. The king will seek you out. If you wash cars, make sure you're the best person washing cars. The king's going to seek you out to wash his fleet. This is human nature. Everybody wants the best golf teacher, the best club. This is what everybody's seeking for, the best. So if we're seeking for the best, be the best. Be the best at what you do, period. And that will be your calling card. I'm having calls now from folks I've never met, don't know. Everybody wants to sit down and talk to us. Why? Because T. Dallas Smith and Company did the largest transaction in the United States last year. Mm-hmm. That's black, white, large firm, small firm. We did the largest transaction in the United States. That was for 6 months until Facebook took 730,000 square feet in New York and beat it. So we finished last year in the United States. It's the second largest, but in Georgia, it was arguably the largest deal that was done. And so again, all that was us being fundamentally doing what we do, being the best at what we do and getting better every day. And that's the thing, staying green enough to grow, become better every day. Don't ever just sit on your laurels, sit on your skills. You better be learning something better for tomorrow to do better than what you did yesterday or today.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's still not a lot of women represented in commercial real estate. I think I've been doing this, touching on 10 years. So I'm seeing some more come in. What advice would you give to women coming into commercial real estate?
It's the same advice I give to men. You got it.
I like that.
I mean, be the best. I mean, it's no difference between, at the end of the day, if you're the best heart surgeon and you're a woman, I don't give a damn.
Right.
If you're a man, if you're black, white, tall, short, you're the best. Let that speak. Let that be your calling card. I don't, you got to be the best. Yeah. We're doing this stuff now because we're really the best at what we do, period. And I've got clients who you can ask that to. I've had AT&T, one of the guys said to me, he said, Dallas, help me understand, how is it that a small firm like yours can do better than CBRE, Jones Lang LaSalle, Cushman Wakefield? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, we gave y'all the exact same assignments, and across the board on 3 different assignments, y'all, T. Dallas Smith Company, you're typically 13% cheaper on the aggregate value than these other firms. So I thought about it for a minute, Nicole, and this is what I came up with. This was
Right.
on the fly. I said, well, we're not members of the same country club.
Oh.
He said, what do you mean? I said, think about it this way. If George is a member, if George and I are a member of Piedmont Driving Club, and our wives play golf together, play tennis together, George owns a building, I'm representing a tenant who wants to go into his building. My buddy, I'm gonna say, hey, George, let me tell you, man, at the end of the day, my client needs to be at $45 a foot. And George's like, man, hey, man, we're at 50, man. We got to be at 50, man. We're having drinks. We're drinking smoked old fashions. We're having cocktails. And George said, well, I'll tell you what, I can get you to 48. That's it. I was like, okay. Now, my job now, I got to go back to my client and say, man, I beat George up, man. Oh, I beat him up bad. I bet, man. You know, he can do 48. That's the number. That's the bet. And you end up doing that deal. And what you've done really at the end of the day, you've shorted your client for your friendship for George.
Right. Now,
a pure tenant rep like us, we don't represent landlords. No disrespect to George, but I don't give a damn about George. my deal is to make sure I take care of my client. Mm-hmm. And so if it means I got to pummel George in every way possible, George is going to get pummeled. And that actual pummeling, I mean, me doing that to him, I say is another 13%. So what I said to my buddy was, I said, I call that a friendship tax. You're paying a 13% more with these other guys because of their friendship tax. So if you represent landlords and tenants, where's your loyalty?
Right.
Where's your loyalty? It ought to be against the law. It's not, but it ought to be. Mm-hmm. It ought to be. I mean, a lawyer can't represent both the plaintiff and the defendant. It's against the law.
Right.
But we do it all day long, not thinking anything of it. So these corporations are getting smart, and they realize they're paying extra freight. And if I'm not going to pay for your friendship for George, I shouldn't have to.
Right.
So when we come to the table, it's as clear as black and white what the delta is, what the difference is.
Right.
So again, we're not members of the same country club, and even the country club I go to is College Park Municipal Golf Course.
Yeah.
That's not an issue.
Yeah. That you cannot serve two masters. That's biblical.
You can't do it. But these big firms do it all day long. And right. I see somebody say, stay a student. At the end of the day, that's it. I'm a 39-year student in this game. I'm getting better every day. And the day I stop getting better is the day I won't be doing this anymore.
And I think also, be comfortable in your own skin and be authentic. That's one of the things I just really like about you. I've had other commercial brokers, come to me and say, how is it that, you're in commercial, and how is it that, you can walk into a room and, there's 200 other, races that's not mine. Right. And how can you be comfortable? And I'm like, because I don't see that as an impediment. My skin is my business card. You will never forget me if I walk into the room. I might forget you, but you're not going to forget me. You're not going to forget that I was there.
I used to say, positive. No doubt about it. I mean, like, I go to this event, 3,000 people. There's 12 Black people. One of them's named Dallas. It's kind of hard to forget that. Yeah. And two of my guys are 6'8", so you're not going to miss us.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it's about how we see the advantages that we have and to leverage that to the fullest. Stay green enough to grow and bet on yourself. A lot of us, our moms and dads told us to go get a good job, get you some good benefits. And that's what we were trained to do, to become good employees. Yeah. But the reality is this, business owners move the world around here, and we're all independent business owners doing this thing called real estate. And bet on yourself, period.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I was curious about is if you thought, and you might still think, what you were saying is that not much will change. Do you think tenants are going to want more low-rise, buildings without the elevators? It seemed like the elevators was like a big deal at one point. Or are you seeing landlords put in systems that are kind of making tenants more comfortable from an HVAC perspective?
Yeah, the latter. You're gonna see, I mean, nothing won't, I mean, again, people's memories are very short. But
Mhm.
what will happen, landlords will start using their HEPA filter system, their static cleaning system as an attribute to why you should go into their building.
Okay, yeah,
It will become a selling tool.
that's true.
Not unlike LEED, certified, whether it's silver, gold,
Yeah,
platinum certified. I mean, that was a thing. When was the last time you really heard that?
right.
Again, our memories are very short.
Mhm.
People have a tendency to repeat the very thing they said they wouldn't do. They end up repeating it.
Right.
So be be sound in your fundamentals. Ben, to your point, be authentic, be who you are, and people will choose whether they like you or not,
Right.
and that's cool.
Mhm.
That's all right.
So how did Airbnb happen? I mean, that was a big deal.
So the story goes, I mean, we know we have an office in LA, and just everybody's seeing what we're doing, and they made a point to, if they were coming to Atlanta, they were going to work with us.
Okay.
That was what was told to us. And so again, it's us doing what we do. It's not again, if you're the best heart surgeon and your client needs surgery, they're looking for you. And so
Damn.
that's the thing. At the end of the day, you just got to remember that. Be the best at what you do. On every little thing, be the best.
Mhm.
Let your clients sing your praises. And that's what's happening. So these clients have called Microsoft, and so they follow each other. And so I mean, we know we're finished. We're just getting started.
All right, we are gonna open up the chat to questions. Our moderator, Jackie Pace, is on the call. Jackie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear
Yes.
you loud and clear.
Okay. We do have a couple questions
Okay.
for Dallas. So the first one, we were talking about picking a lane and being good at that. Some new commercial realtors have a hard time choosing a specialty,
Yeah.
picking a lane. What advice would you give them about choosing what their specialty would be?
Think about your own inner circle first. I tell people all the time, and Carl's heard me say this. Anybody I talk to from a mentoring standpoint heard me say this. If you are, if you or if you're white and you pick up the phone and make 100 cold calls, the odds are the person that you're talking to who heads up real estate is going to look like you.
Mhm.
That's just the odd. But the odds are they're going to be white and they're going to be male.
Mhm.
So if you're female, this person's different than you. If you're black, this person's different than you in pretty much every respect, right?
Mhm.
So if you make 100 calls, if you get 2 calls, it sounds like you got some prospects. That's a good that's a good number, 2% return, right?
Right.
But now imagine you're a black female and you're going to make 100 cold calls, and all the CEOs or the heads of real estates are black females.
Mm.
What do you think the return will be then? It's just going to be a higher number.
Yeah, awesome.
So what I would say is, instead of going out, come in. Think about your friends and family first. The people who you would invite to your wedding, the people who you would invite to your child's bar mitzvah, those people who you would invite in your inner circle.
Mhm.
Make sure they know what you do. And then what you may find out is that uncle who comes to every family reunion with a new car every year, it has worked in XYZ company for 30 years. And he could be at any level. He could be the janitor, he could be the CEO, but he's been there for a long time. He knows everybody there.
Mhm.
That uncle may say to you, because it's you, yo, you know real estate, let me introduce you to Bob. That's what Bob does. And then that helps set you on your trajectory that I'm going to start doing this type of product because I started with this type of client. So it's about going within your inner circle. We have to hunt different. Everybody who look like me on this call understand our story is a different story in America. It just is. Right, wrong, indifferent. It's just different. So what I would say to you, and this could work for anybody, work within your inner circle. Again, the people who are on your wedding list. Again, if you got a 200 plate dinner for your wedding, you're not spending that on everybody. But
Right.
those folks who you would invite, those people ought to know candidly what you do. And they may be able to connect you to whether it's office, industrial, land, or whatever, but they kept set you on your path. But what we tend to do is to be impatient and we want to move quick. So somebody comes and say, hey, I need a hair salon. The next thing you know, you finding a hair salon. Or I need this, and you're doing some stuff you really don't want to do because you can't really sustain you and your family off of the fee that you can get from a hair salon.
Yeah.
So go deep within your own network first. Again, it's not anything to do about the real estate. It's about who they are connected to. LinkedIn is a great tool. I started with LinkedIn, like everybody else did, but I got very intentional about it. I use it surgically. I watch people who watch me. I pay for the extra so I can see who's watching me. If I get a common thread about this particular company's watching me on a regular basis, I'll reach out to that company in some form of fashion.
Okay.
So now I'm connected to more than 10,000 people on my LinkedIn. And so again, there's ways we can use old school. I got a lot of young millennials over here, so they're teaching me how to do this stuff. But again, it's about me continuing to be green enough to grow. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
I would
That's
approach
good. Okay, so we have a question from Miss Phyllis Mentor. So she wants to know, what are your morning rituals and what book would you recommend?
So one of my favorite books, I typically get up around 6:30 every day. So that's sort of my late schedule. But then I get up 6:30 and then I'm typically not home till 8 or 9. So I'm working. I've got meetings all day. I tell my wife I'm a professional eater. So I had breakfast this morning with somebody. I got lunch here in about 24 minutes. And then I'll have dinner later on today. But my whole purpose now as president and CEO is really about I'm responsible for all the brokers and all the work that we do. And so I manage larger relationships. So Microsoft has a problem or FedEx has a problem, I'm going to get that call and then I'm going to correct it. Knock on wood, we hadn't had to deal with that, but that's sort of my focus. I'm pretty intentional about what I'm reading. So one of my favorite books is written in the 30s. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's a classic. It's something that I recommend everybody should read. And that's a classic.
I had a quick question for you, Alice. What was the deal where you knew things would never be the same?
Really, for me, for T. Dallas Smith and Company, it was when we got AT&T as a client, as a corporate client. And so, what that means is, they signed a contract with you. You got them as a client for 4 years. Then we got FedEx as a client for, we've been doing AT&T work now for 12 years. We've been doing FedEx work for almost 10 years.
Wow.
So once I got that corporate client, that contract that said you're going to be doing, I knew the game had changed because now we had the resume, because, we talk about corporate clients and what we call one-offs. So like Georgia's Own Credit Union, we represented Georgia's Own Credit Union as it was a good one-off. It was 100,000 square foot one-off.
Wow.
I like one-offs because one-offs are typically less structured, less corporate than some of the corporate things. But I would say that was when I knew the game was over. And there's nobody in our space who looks like us doing purely tenant rep.
Right.
And I knew if you were gonna compete with the big boys, and when we compete with CBRE, Jones Lang LaSalle, Cushman & Wakefield, we arguably have third market share in Atlanta now, just under CBRE and Jones Lang LaSalle, then T. Dallas Smith Company. Then there's everybody else right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Before I forget, if brokers want to join your firm, how do they apply?
It's a rigorous process. So I can be quite the a-hole when I need to be. And people might say, well, why, you don't want to bring people into the business. Why would you do that to people, right? Well, here's the reality. If I want to see people look like me in the business, I'm going to be hard on you. I'm going to be hard on you because I know what these corporations are going to do to you. And if you can't fight to get to me, somebody who I know is an advocate, you know is an advocate for the industry, how can I depend on you to go call a stranger? I just can't. And so I'm hard like that with my people who have been hired. Well, I can't get a hold of you. Why can't you get a hold of me? You know where I'm in. I mean, so if you're not trying to get here, that's a telltale sign for me that you don't have what it takes.
Wow.
And you know what at the end of the day, you got to have what. And I don't have any other. My cousin, who's he's my cousin, but he's my closest friend, Eric Melson. He's a salesman too. He's with Bank of America, have been in the bank for years. The term that we use is you got to have that dog in you. And that dog in you, I got a little Boston Terrier, right, who's only 25 pounds. But he thinks he's a Great Dane or he thinks he's a pit bull. I mean, he will not back down to any big dog. He had a Cane Corso pit bull mix run up on him and he went right at him. That's what I call having that dog, right? And if you're going to be in this business, you got to be able to do that. Male, female, black, white. You got to be able to understand that when somebody says no to you, doesn't really mean no. when I hear no, I just hear not right now.
Right.
And one of my favorite stories when I was working for Mr. Tip, I was cold calling this guy, and the guy said he might be looking for space. I called this guy. Well, I'll tell you the story. So Mr. Tip calls me into his office. He said, Dallas, I'm just using Carl Simeon. That's his name, Carl Simeon. You know Carl Simeon? I said, yeah. I said, he may be looking for space. And Mr. Tip said, is it true you've called this guy 50 days in a row? That's it. Mr. Tip, the guy told me he might be looking for space. I'm going to turn might into a yes, and I'm going to do that deal. Mr. Tip said, well, he's not going to do the deal. In fact, he called me, told me to tell you, if you call him one more time, he's going to file charges against the company. He said, and this is what Mr. Tip said. He said, but Dallas, whatever you do, don't lose that spirit. He said, I'd rather tell you to slow down than have to tell you to speed up.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah.
And so I'm the same way. I'd rather tell somebody, hey, slow down.
Mm-hmm.
But if I got to continue to tell you to speed up, you would not be a good fit here. And I would drive you absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm 39 years in the business. I'm still chasing like I've never done a deal in my life. I still wake up doing that. And I want the next deal, the bigger deal, the shinier deal, all of that. And then it's not to feed me, it's to feed my folks and their families. I mean, we're changing people's lives because of what we're doing here. And that's what I get the most joy about. And what God knew that I didn't know, how glad I would be to see these folks come and get their lives changed because they made this kind of money in an industry that we didn't even know existed. We're less than 3%. But I tell people commercial real estate has created more millionaires than basketball, baseball, and football combined.
Wow. Yes.
So again, it's the issue of a lack of exposure. And then this is a business that is a generational business. So I don't know how many of y'all have met somebody who's got the same last name and they are the first or the second or the third or the fourth or the fifth. Larry Gullenstack, Lawrence Gullenstack is Laura Gullenstack, the fourth.
Yeah.
And so that's Cousin's business, what it came out of. And so that's what this business is. A lot of people with the same last names. And if you're not in that fraternity, sorority, then you're just not in the game. So what T. Dow Smith and Company is, we're that way to get into the game at the highest level. But I'm expecting you to be championship quality. I'm not expecting, excuse my French, I'm just not expecting bullshit. If you're gonna show up and go to work, put work in, hey, call me all day long. But if you're one of those thinking you just because you get here, you're gonna be thrown on a deal team, that's not how this works. You gotta be faithful with little.
Mm-hmm.
Be faithful with much.
Amen.
My deals didn't start off at 500,000 square feet. That's not where I started. In fact, my first deal I ever did was about 80 square feet, and I made $300. That was 39 years ago. But what that did for me, Nicole, when I made that $300, you'd have thought I made $1 million. I was so excited to the fact that I was able to create something out of nothing using this and just my wits.
Yeah.
that was legal, that I could sleep at night.
Yeah.
And it's fundamentally still the same thing. Anyway.
Yeah, Jackie. Well, one more, and we're gonna let him go because his executive assistant has maybe promised a hard stop at 12:15.
Okay, cool. Good thing a lot of the questions were already answered as we move through. So that was awesome. So the last one is your VP, your new VP, Audra.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
she's actually our chief administrative officer.
Okay.
She's going to be heading up our legal practice. She is a beast.
Mm-hmm.
She used to be with CBRE. She was with JLL. She was with Newmark Knight Frank. And it's just somebody we met. And I say we, it was me and Dexter. Always thought the world of her. Just the same spirit. And ultimately, she'll tell the story, but she was about to go back to one of the bigger shops. And we said, let's just have lunch. So we had lunch. And after about 3 hours, she said, she was real clear on what she needed to do because our goals ultimately in life were aligned.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to see more people of color in the industry, same way I do. She has a portfolio and a background, par excellence, that's hard for anybody to compete with. And so what we're doing is really just building a dream team of folks who make things happen, because the world is big. There's a big pile here for a lot of us. Like I said, if you notice on the $1 million award thing, there was a 5-way tie from T. Dallas Smith and Company. It was a 5-way tie because we split that deal five ways. There's not a lot of shops doing that. Typically, the old guys who've been doing it for 40, 50 years, they're the guys get the lion's share, and the junior people get different. That's not how we operate. We're creating a culture that good behavior gets rewarded. And again, we're not, I'm not carrying anybody.
Right.
It's your goal to come here and to help bring something to the table
Mm-hmm.
that we don't have and to make us better. And that's exactly what Audra's doing. And so she, all I'll tell you is everybody watch out. She ain't nothing to play with. And she got the pride. She got the pride standing behind us. So, our logo is a lion. So we function as a pride. And that's how we operate. I mean, it takes more than one lion to pull an elephant down. And if you're going to pull an elephant down, that's all I'm chasing these days, because I don't have time to chase squirrels or rabbits right now. I just don't. I got more. If God blessed me with another 58 years, I'd be very surprised. But I don't think I'll get another 58. So I've got to play this game like I'm in late third, fourth quarter, and so I need people on the team who can run hard and good reputation, just good people inside and out.
And you've got multiple offices. It's not just Atlanta. I think you've got one in Jersey. I think I saw one in Texas.
So Jersey's kind of we've changed that model just slightly.
Okay.
And we'll be hearing more about this, but we've got a partner in Jersey. Blauberg is our partner. In Texas, we have Allen Bailey Johnson Group is our partner. In California, we have TDS, T. Dallas Smith and Company Inc., because you can't have an LLC in California as a real estate company.
Okay.
So there'll be an announcement made pretty soon about who's going to be running that office.
Okay.
But we do a will and spoke model. Out of Atlanta, I mean, we're all fortunate to be in Atlanta. You get on a plane and cover 80% of the United States in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that's how we operate. We get on a plane, we go do the work. Again, it's about being that heart surgeon. And it's not about being geography. Again, if you need you got a heart problem, you got an issue, Switzerland is the guy, you're gonna go to Switzerland. It's the same way. And I don't have to leave right now. I've got 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if there's any other questions.
How important is golf to commercial real estate?
I think golf is I think golf is a minimum. If you're going to be in this business, as a minimum, you should be playing golf.
Okay.
It's a great way to build relationships. And the thing about golf is, particularly when you find somebody who kind of plays the same way you do, because they've got some guys who scratch golfers who are extremely serious. Well, they want somebody to play with them who's extremely serious, who, plays the same way they do. If you got somebody like me who's a high handicapper, I'm not going to embarrass you, but I'm going to have fun too. But I'm also competitive. So that's why I'm going to get, when I see Carl again this year, trust me, I'm going to beat Carl at some point this year, even with him cheating on the golf court. I'm going to beat him. He's bringing illegal things out on the golf course because he's got this thing that he can read the putter, all this kind of stuff, all illegal. George and I have already talked about it. It's illegal. But I'm still going to beat him, even with the illegal stuff.
We're not going to unmute him so he can defend himself.
Yeah. He just got to take it today.
Man, this is such great information. How can we all reach you? I think I know.
If we're not connected on LinkedIn, reach out to me on LinkedIn. This is how I grow my network. This is how we get to know one another. Just send me a note saying, hey, I saw you on the Coast KW platform. I will connect with you. And if you have questions, just send me questions. I'm a little slow these days getting back to folks, but I do my best. But yeah, I'm easy to get a hold of, and I just want to see the best in people of all ilk. That this is a great business. It's afforded me to do a lot of things, and I'm still having a good time. And I've got some great clients who are some really good people. So, but LinkedIn is best, and LinkedIn is just T. Dallas Smith. You can find me at T. Dallas Smith.
Okay. Well, on behalf of all of us, thank you for paving the way. I know I do what I do because you prepared the way. So I just want to say, we really appreciate you. And we will be watching and just continuing to be inspired by the things that you guys are doing. Shout out to Deidre, shout out to Cedric over there. And I look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Well, we so appreciate this opportunity. Thank y'all. Go continue to be great.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.